The morning sun kissed the earth, bathing the monastery in a warm, golden glow. I approached Buddha with hesitance. My heart weighed by doubts I struggled to understand. Master, I began softly, bowing low. Why do I find myself sabotaging my own peace and happiness? Buddha gestured toward the shade of the Bodhi tree, inviting me to sit beside him in silence. Tell me, he said, his voice gentle as the breeze. What thoughts arise when happiness seeks to enter your heart? I closed my eyes, searching for words, and finally spoke. I fear joy because its loss feels unbearable. Buddha nodded slowly, his serene face reflecting understanding. This fear is a trap, a prison of your own making. Master, how do I free myself from this? I pleaded, tears pooling in my eyes, clouding my vision. To understand your chains, you must first see them, Buddha began, his voice calm and steady, like flowing water. You fear that happiness will leave, but its nature is to come and go, like clouds across the sky. I listened intently, my heart aching with both sorrow and hope, absorbing the wisdom in each of his words. Holding on to happiness tightly is like clutching water in your fist, Buddha explained, raising a cupped hand. It slips through your grasp, he continued, not because it betrays you, but because you cannot hold impermanence. His words painted vivid images in my mind, revealing truths I had failed to confront for so long. You sabotage happiness, Buddha said softly, because you believe it will shield you from pain, when it merely isolates you. I reflected deeply, the silence between us echoing louder than words, filled with the weight of ancient wisdom. Happiness, Buddha added after a pause, is not an object to be captured. It is a moment to be experienced. When you grasp at happiness, the Buddha said, you reduce it to something external, something separate from yourself. His gaze swept over the group, resting on each of us with an encouraging warmth. It thrives in darkness, he said, his eyes fixed on mine. Shine the light of awareness on it, and it fades. What light, Master? I asked, yearning for clarity, my hands trembling as my thoughts clashed within me. Awareness, Buddha replied, is understanding the nature of your fear, without judgment, without resistance, observing it as it is. See your fear as a part of you, not as an enemy, he advised, his voice steady, resonating within. By embracing your fear, Buddha continued, you disarm it, for it no longer needs to shout to be acknowledged. His words were like keys, unlocking doors in my mind that had remained bolted by doubts, assumptions, and insecurities. The path to freedom, Buddha said, is not paved with avoidance but with acceptance and awareness of what truly is. I sat in silence, processing his words, feeling the weight of my own fears lessen under the light of his teaching. Happiness, like the river, flows naturally, he said. When you try to control it, you disrupt its course. Master, I ventured, how can I learn to let go and trust this flow, instead of holding on so tightly? Trust, Buddha said, comes from understanding, and understanding arises from observing without attachment or aversion. Like watching the river flow, you must learn to sit by the river of life, observing its waters, not trying to redirect its natural course. Embrace each wave of happiness and sorrow, Buddha added, as part of the greater current that shapes your journey. His analogy resonated deeply, awakening a newfound willingness to confront the currents of my own inner turmoil. Happiness is transient, as are sorrow and fear, Buddha said. By accepting this truth, you gain freedom from suffering. I looked up at the Bodhi tree above, its leaves dancing in the sunlight, mirroring the wisdom of his words. Master, I asked, what is the first step I must take to walk the path you have shown me today? The first step, Buddha said softly, is to forgive yourself for your mistakes and offer compassion to your own heart. Every cycle of Self-sabotage begins with misunderstanding, he explained. When you forgive yourself, you break the cycle and plant new seeds, and those seeds, Buddha added, will grow into moments of joy, no longer clouded by fear or self-doubt. I felt an unfamiliar warmth in my heart, a glimmer of hope replacing the heavy chains that had bound me. Remember, Buddha said, his voice filled with kindness. Self-sabotage is not an enemy, but a teacher in disguise. Learn from it, he urged, and it will guide you back to your true nature, free from unnecessary suffering. Thank you, Master, I whispered, bowing deeply, my heart swelling with gratitude for his wisdom and patience. As I rose to leave, the golden light of the morning seemed brighter, as though reflecting the clarity I now felt. Another day, another chance to learn. Buddha walked through the forest as sunlight filtered gently through the canopy above. I joined him silently, my heart uneasy, as thoughts of unworthiness crept in, clouding my mind with doubt. Master, I began hesitantly, why do I feel undeserving of the happiness that graces my life? However fleeting? Buddha paused, turning to face me with a gaze that held both kindness and understanding. Like an anchor in stormy waters, the feeling of unworthiness, he said softly, is a shadow cast by the stories you tell yourself about your value. What stories, Master? I asked, my voice trembling as I struggled to confront the inner voices haunting me. Tell me, Buddha said, gesturing toward a fallen tree. What whispers arise in your mind when joy seeks your heart? I lowered my gaze, afraid to admit the truth. The whispers say I am not enough, that happiness is not mine to hold. Buddha sighed, his expression unwavering yet compassionate. These whispers do not belong to you, but to the seeds planted by others. What seeds, Master? I asked, confused yet eager to understand the nature of these thoughts that bound me. The seeds of doubt, Buddha explained, planted by the voices of judgment, criticism, and negativity you have encountered in life. But, Master, I hesitated. How do I free myself from the roots these seeds have grown into, which choke my happiness? You must become the gardener of your mind, Buddha said, uprooting weeds of doubt and planting flowers of self-worth. Master, how do I uproot these weeds when their roots feel so deeply entwined with my thoughts? I asked quietly. Begin, Buddha said, by questioning the validity of these whispers. The Buddha nodded, his understanding transcending words. Happiness, he said, when confined, becomes fragile, precarious, subject to loss and impermanence. His analogy struck me, revealing the power of choice in nurturing my thoughts and defining the garden of my inner self. Master, I asked, how do I plant flowers of self-worth and ensure they bloom amid the challenges of life? Buddha smiled warmly, his gaze resting on a patch of wildflowers thriving in the forest's embrace. Nature holds the answer. Do you see these flowers? He asked, his voice calm and inviting. They bloom not because the conditions are perfect. They bloom, Buddha continued, because they accept the conditions as they are and stretch toward the sunlight that nurtures them. You, too, Buddha said, must accept yourself as you are, stretching toward joy without waiting for perfection to grace your life. But, Master, I wondered aloud, how do I embrace the sunlight of joy when shadows still linger within me? Shadows, Buddha replied, exist only where light shines. By embracing the light, you reveal and diminish the shadows in time. His words stirred something deep within me, a flicker of hope where despair had previously held sway over my heart. Master, I asked, what is the first step in growing this garden of joy and self-worth within myself? Begin with compassion for yourself, Buddha said, for compassion is the fertile soil where seeds of joy and worth may grow. But, Master, I asked, how do I practice compassion for myself when self-criticism often feels louder than kindness? Compassion, Buddha explained, is a choice to treat yourself as you would treat a friend. With patience, understanding, and love, silence the voice of criticism, Buddha continued, not by arguing with it, but by speaking to yourself with kindness and encouragement. His advice felt both challenging and liberating, awakening the possibility of rewriting the stories I had long believed about myself. By understanding that what you hold is transient, he said, and by embracing the flow of life, he picked a single blade of grass, its simplicity embodying the essence of the teaching. Observe each thought, Buddha said, as you would a passing cloud, letting it drift without clinging or pushing it away. Mindfulness, he added, helps you recognize the seeds of doubt before they take root and nurtures the seeds of joy to bloom. I listened intently, feeling a newfound determination to tend to my inner garden and foster a path towards self-worth and happiness. Master, I asked, what happens when weeds of doubt seem to grow despite my efforts to uproot them? Even weeds, Buddha replied, teach you the value of persistence. Each effort to uproot them strengthens your resolve and cultivates patience. Growth, Buddha said, is not a straight path but a winding journey of challenges, lessons, and victories that shape your character. As his words settled in my heart, I felt the burden of unworthiness begin to shift, replaced by the strength of hope. Thank you, Master, I whispered, bowing deeply, my heart filled with gratitude for the wisdom he had shared so generously. Buddha smiled, his presence a calming force, like the stillness of the forest around us. Timeless and comforting, together, we continued along the path, the sunlight of joy illuminating the shadows that once held sway over my mind. Another day, another lesson unfolded beneath the evening sky. As Buddha sat surrounded by his disciples in quiet contemplation, I watched the flickering lanterns illuminate the serene atmosphere, my heart heavy with doubts I struggled to articulate. Master, I finally said, breaking the silence, how do we find freedom from the patterns that sabotage our happiness? Buddha looked at me with a calm, unwavering gaze, his presence as steady as the mountains in the distance. The path to freedom, Buddha began, requires awareness, compassion, and acceptance of impermanence as the natural rhythm of life. What is awareness, Master? I asked, my voice trembling as I struggled to grasp the weight of his profound words. Awareness, Buddha said, is the art of observing your thoughts, emotions, and actions without attachment or aversion clouding your perception. Master, how do I observe my thoughts without judgment when they often feel overwhelming and powerful? I asked softly. Start by acknowledging each thought as it arises, Buddha replied. Without labeling it as good or bad, simply as it is. By observing with curiosity, not fear, he continued, you begin to understand the roots of your patterns without feeding their strength. His words resonated deeply, revealing a path to self-understanding I had not previously considered amidst my struggles and fears. Compassion, Buddha said, is the next step. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer to a dear friend. Master, I asked hesitantly, how do I cultivate self-compassion when guilt and self-criticism dominate my inner dialogue? Speak to yourself gently, Buddha advised, as you would soothe a child who has stumbled, offering patience and encouragement. Understand, he added, that mistakes are teachers, not punishments, and that growth requires acceptance of imperfection in yourself and others. Compassion for yourself, Buddha said, opens the door to compassion for others. For we are all travelers on the same path. I reflected on his words, feeling a sense of relief in the realization that kindness toward myself could ignite inner healing. Master, I asked, how do I accept impermanence when the thought of losing happiness brings fear and resistance? Impermanence, Buddha replied, is not an enemy but a truth that liberates us from clinging and aversion, allowing us to live fully. Consider the moon, he said, pointing to the sky. It waxes and wanes, yet its beauty remains unchanged in every phase. Happiness, like the moon, Buddha continued, shifts and changes, yet its essence remains, teaching us to embrace life's natural rhythm. By accepting impermanence, he added, we free ourselves from the burden of expecting permanence in an ever-changing world. His words opened my heart to a new perspective, one that replaced fear with a sense of peace and balance. Master, I asked, how do I apply these teachings in daily life when challenges and setbacks seem so persistent? Every moment, Buddha said, offers an opportunity to practice awareness, compassion, and acceptance. No matter how small the gesture may seem. Begin, he continued, by pausing when difficulties arise, observing your thoughts and feelings, and responding with kindness and understanding. Another day, another dusk cast its golden glow as the Buddha gathered us beneath the ancient Bodhi tree for evening meditation. The fireflies danced in the deepening twilight, their glow reminiscent of stars scattered across the heavens. Master, I asked, how do I sustain this practice when the journey feels long and the progress slow? Patience, Buddha replied, is essential, for growth unfolds like the blooming of a flower, gradually, over time and with care. Remember, he said, that every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to freedom from the patterns that bind you. Celebrate your efforts, Buddha added, and trust that the seeds you plant with intention will blossom when the time is right. His encouragement filled me with renewed determination to embrace the journey, despite its challenges and uncertainties along the way. Master, I asked, what happens when I feel I have strayed from the path and fallen back into old habits? Straying from the path, Buddha said, is part of the journey. It teaches you where you need to grow and strengthen. Forgive yourself, he continued, and return to the path with a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to your growth. Every setback, Buddha added, offers a lesson, and every return to the path deepens your understanding and resilience. I felt a sense of liberation in knowing that imperfection was not failure but an opportunity for learning and renewal. Master, I said, bowing deeply, thank you for illuminating the path to freedom with your wisdom and compassion. Buddha smiled gently, his presence a reminder of the strength and peace that lies within each of us, waiting to be discovered. As the lanterns flickered in the evening breeze, I felt a sense of lightness, knowing I held the keys to my freedom. The Buddha placed the flower gently on the ground, its fragile form a testament to the transient nature of life. Master, a disciple asked, how do we embrace impermanence without losing hope or joy? The Buddha's expression remained serene, his answer as steady as the stars emerging in the night sky. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.